Thanks for joining us today. I am here with Sujatha Reddy, and Sujatha is an Ayurvedic practitioner, so practices Ayurvedic medicine.
Yes.
And I really think of it as a medicine because everything that we do is a medicine, and it can help in healing. Food in itself is a medicine. And you really take a look at that holistic value of herbs and food supplements as a way to heal the body.
Yes, I do.
That's wonderful.
Yes. Before even we go into the healing part, I want to give you a little background. Is that okay?
That'd be great. Yeah, tell us about yourself and Ayurvedic medicine.
Well, I'm an Ayurvedic doctor from India. I came to this country in 1989, and I've been practicing Ayurveda since. I am here in Denver for the past 2 years, and I'm happy to be here. A little bit about Ayurveda. It goes back 5,000 years. It's not a new science. So when we are looking at 5,000-year-old history of how we have to live, it's incredible. In Ayurveda, we are considered as a microcosm of the macrocosm. And Ayurveda is a sister science of yoga and astrology. They don't exist without each other.
I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
Yes. So in Ayurveda, it's all about knowing yourself. What you are is what the universe is. It's all about the elements that composes the whole cosmos, and everything that is in the cosmos is in our body, in every cell, to the level of the atom. It's matter, and that's the only way we exist. And we cannot exist independently without the universe. So in Ayurveda, we look at 5 major elements that comprises of not just our human body, it's all living and non-living, and the cosmos. It's all manifestation. The 5 elements are the earth, the air, the fire, the water, and the space. And each of those elements are interdependent. They cannot exist independently. So we all have all 5 elements in our body in different compositions. Now Ayurveda has 3 unique constitutions based on these 5 elements for each of us. You're a different constitution, you have your unique constitution, and I have my unique constitution. We all have all those 5 elements. We are just dominant in 1, 2, or 3. So based upon our genetics and based upon where we live on this planet Earth and our surroundings and our environment, our constitution is nurtured by what is around us. Nature provides us with everything, food and herbs, that we need to balance this constitution to stay in a state of health and well-being.
I believe that to be true. Everything we need was actually given to us. We didn't need to manufacture it.
No, we didn't need
It's
to.
part of who we are.
Yes.
It's the roots of where we came from.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Does our constitution change as we change our environment?
So our basic constitution that we are born with does not change.
Okay.
But as we grow, like we have what is called the anabolic phase of life, the metabolic phase of life, and the catabolic phase of life. In the anabolic phase of life, we have what is called as the water and the earth element more, because we need those nourishing things to grow, those nourishing elements to grow. That's why when you look at little kids, you know,
They bounce.
they're bounce and they're so, you know, there's so much full of water and that earth and the tissue growing. They're always growing.
They're eating it, they're swimming in it.
Isn't it?
Yes.
And they're always afflicted with respiratory diseases more commonly.
That's true.
Because in our body, these elements occupy, they are dominant in this part of the body where they are seated, like the water element and the earth element and the air element. You know, air element is dominant in our intestines. The fire element is dominated in our stomach, digestion area.
Yeah.
And the air and water element is dominant in our chest area. So when we look at it, so the infections, our lung infections are more common in children.
Oh, I never thought
And
about
when
that.
we
That's
go into
fascinating.
adulthood, you know, the metabolic diseases, right? Or fire is
and that's
dominant.
in that midpoint of life.
Yes. And in that midpoint of life is where we are ambitious, we strive to acquire material, growth of family. There's so much we achieve in our life.
And we do it from
that
here.
is that fire. We do it from our gut,
Yes.
isn't it? So that is the fire. And if that goes in imbalance, that's something to think about.
Yeah.
That's something, that self-awareness of our body and mind is very important in Ayurveda. How we
Mhm.
live, how we eat for balance is
How we
very
think.
important. And how we think. Yes.
Yeah. That's fascinating. And then in that third phase, that catabolic.
Yes, in the catabolic phase, it is all about deterioration, isn't it? There is
Mhm.
no growth. So
Right. It's that-
maintenance is high.
Ah.
You know, the air element is higher. And when the air element is higher, everything starts to dry up. Air dries up like the weather in Denmark.
Yes, it
Isn't
can
it?
get quite
So-
dry here.
It can get very dry. So tissues start to dry up, and then there is the catabolism, right? There's a breakdown of everything. So it is very important for us to maintain that balance. The more we have to maintain, the more we have to care for ourselves. And that's why when we reach that part of life, we tend to do that.
So do you find in Ayurvedic medicine that lifespan, you're going to go through these 3 stages, and what we find maybe is that people compress it by making poor choices, but what you can do is expand that length of life for each stage
Yeah. So
by being in balance?
if we are aware and in tune with nature,
Mhm.
everything will go smoothly. If we are not in tune with nature, that's when we build walls. And that's when we forget about who we really are. For example, how many of us know that we have to follow the rhythm of the sun?
Not many.
Right?
This is why we talk about night owls and
Isn't it?
people who have their biorhythm off and they want to be up all
Yes.
night. Yes,
Yes.
because we think we're nocturnal creatures and we're not.
We are not nocturnal creatures. So we follow the rhythm of the sun. When the sun rises, the intensity of heat is not very high.
True.
There's more of the moisture in the air.
Mhm.
So we don't feel that hungry in the early morning.
Right.
So we can compare the sunshine and the intensity of the sun to our metabolism.
Okay.
So that just gives us a very big hint about how we should be eating.
Yeah, so you should
Right?
lightly in the morning.
Light breakfast in the morning, that's why it's called breakfast.
Yes.
Right.
Just enough to break it.
Enough to break it. And then the intensity of the sun's heat is very high in between 12 and 3.
So a heavier meal in that period?
The metabolism is so high
Yeah.
that we have to eat all our high protein diet,
Yes.
right? During lunch. Eat like a king.
Yeah.
And so you will break it down, digest and assimilate
Mm-hmm.
it very well, with no residue of toxins.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yes.
Okay.
And not just that, in Ayurveda, we don't recommend drinking any fluids below room temperature.
That appeals to me so much. I am not a cold, as I've always liked it, room temperature or warmer.
Right. And
Year round
with
even.
room temperature, you're going to nurture that metabolism.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are eating and you dump ice in your stomach, you're neutralizing that acid.
Right.
It's like putting ice on your fire pit in the fireplace.
And you need that digestion,
You
really
need that.
robust.
At that time, when you're eating your meal, you need that fire, you need that metabolism, high metabolism to digest your food. And it is only it only stays there for a limited time. It's not going to stay there forever.
Right.
So the peristalsis takes over. And so before that time, it has to move the way it needs to move. So we only have to help it, not dampen it.
Right.
Right? So then, having said that, once we do that in the afternoon, and then we move towards the evening hours, and it's twilight, and the intensity of the heat goes down at the sun,
Yeah.
right? And so our metabolism goes down.
Right.
And that should tell us we need to eat light, early dinner.
So do you think that's why in America, where they've kind of gotten that maybe reverse, you're eating a snacky kind of thing at lunch and you do your big meal at night, could be part of the challenges people have with their GI issues
Yes.
and with weight gain?
Yes.
Because they don't have the metabolism to really deal with that load.
Yes, in Ayurveda it is very clearly said, all diseases stem from your gut.
I believe that.
If your gut is healthy, you're healthy.
This is true. Mentally as well.
Mentally,
They're now tying that to
and
depression.
physically, yes.
And I know you're a mental health provider as
Yes.
well. So do you see this a lot as people just get that rhythm out, they get their gut out of balance and they end up with depression and anxiety and
Not just the gut, even the seasons.
Even the seasons.
Yes. So, for example, in the winter, there's a lot more depression, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've
lack of
heard
light.
about seasonal affective disorder.
Right. People who get light panels now. they're
In
not
the
doing
fall, there's more anxiety.
that. Interesting.
because-
As things are cooling down.
Yes, and the air
Seasonal?
quality, the air is higher. In the fall, everything is drying, the leaves are drying, nature is drying up, they're turning colors,
Yes.
right? So same thing happens with our body too. Our nervous system, but the anxiety is higher.
Interesting.
So then the external environment, it's the air is element is high, and then like increases like. In Ayurveda, it's the opposite that balances it.
So unlike homeopathy, where you're doing that slight substance of like, because it's basically non-existent, but it's like versus like, this is really more the balance of the opposite.
Yes.
So you
Opposites
would
balance. So for example,
adjust
it's
your
too
diet?
cold outside,
uh-huh.
you crave for warm foods, don't you?
Right.
It's
yeah.
natural. All we just
It
have
is.
to listen to our body.
And so you would do the warmer spices and things
Yes.
to warm up the system.
Yes, and keep that fire going. Kindle that fire,
Yeah.
right? So then you're going to feel warm. You're going to nurture your body. You're going to protect your body, and everything is in rhythm.
And this makes sense when you think about living in tune with nature, when we think about how we harvest, right?
Yes.
Because it's going to be those meats and earthier things, that
Mhm.
you're going to have over the winter. You're not going to
Yes.
have the fruits and the melons and all that. Those went out of season.
That's right.
But we ship fruit in from all over the world, right? So we don't necessarily eat seasonally any longer.
And it's very important to eat seasonally. Nature provides us that way. So for example, in the summer, the fruits that grow in the summer are the ones you're supposed to eat.
Right.
Because
They're
there's
cooling.
too much fire, right? Heat
Yes.
and fire and heat. So you're supposed to cool.
Yeah.
So watermelon, think about that.
Shouldn't have that in November.
Shouldn't happen in November, right? So
Right.
it's just very logical.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, if I came into you
Mhm.
as a client with a disturbance, how would you go about addressing my needs? Other than the counseling, which is sound counseling around my diet, I also know that in Ayurvedic medicine, there are actually remedies,
Mhm.
things that you're going to prescribe for me.
Yes. So most of what I do is when you say, for example, you come in, I'm going to, first of all, I can tell a lot of things by looking at you. Besides that, I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions. In that questions comes your daily lifestyle, what you're eating, how you're eating, when you're eating. Is there a genetic history for your condition? And when did this start? Was there a mental stressor? Was there a trigger? How are you doing in your day-to-day activities? When are you sleeping? When are you waking up? What choices are you making in your life?
Right.
Whether it is a domestic situation, or whether it is a work situation, or whether it is something from the past, with the family situation,
Mhm.
or a birth related issues. So it's very detailed information that I take.
So it can be a fairly lengthy intake process.
Yeah, my intake is pretty much 90 minutes, and
Oh,
sometimes
wow.
it's not enough.
Wow. And think about
So-
today's medicine where we practice medicine
Yes.
in 10-minute visits.
Yeah, and
There's
so
just no way to
that
really look at somebody
I don't think
holistically.
is a fix, but I do recognize how the system works,
Mhm.
and they have to do their best, which is fine, I guess, for that situation. But that's why we are out of that system
Right.
to make other choices. Yes, we do need emergency medicine, we do need all of that. I think every system of medicine is very complementing. We just have to understand ourselves first
Right.
as to what we need.
So would you
specifically.
work with a patient then who may be on a series of medications?
Absolutely.
So that you can assess that, know what won't interfere with that, and
Yes.
then work with their physician if they need to back off those medications as their body heals.
I always tell them to go back to their physician, get their blood work done, and all that routine examinations are very important. And it's very good for the patient also to know if they have seen any improvement.
Right.
So even for that, if they went back to their physician and say things have gotten better and you need to decrease your medication, so be it.
Yeah, that's
Isn't
a
it?
wonderful thing.
Yes,
That is
it's
a wonderful thing.
thing.
So I can come see you if I live here in Denver.
Yes.
You're easy to access, but now you wouldn't be able to see me if I called you. So I know that with this I could very easily do a 90-minute interview with you over the phone. Would I send you a picture? Would we Skype?
I would prefer coming in person. If you can't come in person, then I always do Skype or some video consultations.
That's nice, because you like to lay eyes on
Yes, I
on
like
your
to
clients.
see the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
Well, we're good at
it's
lying for
physically
ourselves, right?
challenging and they cannot make it.
Right.
That's different, but I prefer seeing them in person.
Yes.
Other than any other. Of course, technology is there always to take advantage of when people cannot come to
True.
you, and still they can benefit from it.
I just know that any of us in life, we get good at masking things.
Mhm.
So I love the fact that you talk about being able to read by simply looking at. So what are the types of things you'd be looking at when a client comes in? Is it eye clarity? Is it his skin tone?
So it's just everything. Your just physical, whole skeleton, your whole makeup. Everything tells me that you are a certain type of a physical constitution. What may be dominant in you. I may not be, very perfect to the T, but in general, I pretty much can sort of get an idea about, what constitution you may be.
And then depending on the 3 constitutions, so you could have someone show up, 3 different clients of 3 different constitutions or flavors thereof, I guess you might say, with maybe the same symptomology, but they might all require a different Ayurvedic medicine, correct?
So when you are a certain constitution, you're prone to certain kind of conditions.
Ah, I have read that.
Yes. For example, let me talk about the constitutions first. So in Ayurveda, these 5 elements I told you are sort of divided into 3 basic humors, which we call as constitution.
Mm-hmm.
The air and the ether is the Vata constitution.
Mm-hmm.
The fire and water is the Pitta constitution, and the water and earth is the Kapha constitution. So when somebody is very big muscular and big boned, you know that they're a Kapha constitution,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And so they may be more prone to muscular and bone and type of diseases, which physically, tumors or
Right.
anything like that. And they also mentally may be prone to depression more than anxiety.
Interesting. Okay, that
You
makes
know.
sense.
Yes. So I'm not saying they will be,
Right.
but tendencies are there.
Tendencies, yeah.
And they would crave certain foods,
Mm-hmm.
more than the Pitta and the Vata type of people. And they're very grounded, and they take a long time, they think a lot before even they can say something.
So they're not going to be
their
that
decision,
spontaneous.
They're not going to be spontaneous, they don't talk much.
Interesting. Well, that's not me then.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
that's
people who really talk fast and who are very spontaneous and who are very creative are the Vata people. So they're like very quick in making decisions, and they eat quickly but little,
Yeah.
and often
More like a bird.
more like a bird.
So you can even think of a bird in that analogy. So they're going to probably be that
Yes.
flightier.
Air quality, the
Air.
flight, they're always up here, and they're
Yeah.
more prone to anxiety.
That's what I was wondering if you would see that.
Yes.
They're just thinking about everything.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
And how about the third one?
So the Pitta constitution, they're very hungry. You cannot talk to them. They get,
Wow.
they have to be fed. Their fire is so
Yeah.
high.
Now, would that be mentally as well as physically?
Yes, and if they are hungry, they're
So
angry.
like insatiable.
If they're hungry, they're angry and they're irritable.
Interesting.
So once they eat, they're happier.
So they tend to be more your hypoglycemic nature.
Yes.
So can you
Yes.
find, while you've got the 3 constitutions, there's probably variations within that where you have a predominance.
Yes.
But you could be,
So you could be
Predominant in
the Vata solely, the Pitta solely, or the Kapha solely, or you could be dominant in 2, the Vata Pitta, or the Pitta Kapha, or the Kapha Vata, or you could have all three.
Well, that's conflict in your own body there, isn't it?
And any imbalances, we can recognize them based on our constitutions.
Wonderful.
Okay, Pitta is out of balance, so what do I need to do? Kapha is out of balance, so what do I need to do? So the people who are a Kapha constitution, they have a hard time moving their body. They always like be on the couch as much. So when I say opposites, means they have to
Get up.
and move. That's their, that's their therapeutic way of bringing themselves into
Even
balance.
just a walk.
Walk, actually, they need the most aggressive exercise.
Really? So
Yes.
they would be the ones that you would recommend some gym time
Yes,
for?
gym time and really hardcore. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
That's
And
wonderful.
yeah, and they're bound to become lazy, and procrastination is more if they are out of balance.
If they're out of balance.
Yes. So when they recognize those
And that's
things,
going to create depression.
it's going to create depression.
Yep,
Right?
because
And
they
then
don't have
with
control.
that depression, to make them feel good, they're going to go for what kind of foods we know.
Carbs.
Yes.
They're going to go for
which
that
is
comfort
not-
food that's
yes,
not comforting.
So it's temporarily comforting,
Right.
but then in the long run, it's only going to add to the food.
Because it's a sugar
Yes.
rush.
It's a sugar rush.
That's fascinating. And I think, do you find with many of your patients, by simply just understanding that, knowing what their body's telling them,
Yes.
that helps them toward that step
Oh,
toward balance?
it's magical. When they realize,
Wonderful.
they say, oh my God, I'm doing all the wrong things.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. And so here you go. Even you don't have to implement everything in one go.
Mhm.
Start with one step at a time. Just simple. Start changing your eating habits first. Process of elimination. I know it's hard to take out everything that you're eating. At least start with one. It's a slow process.
I like it though, it's empowering. It's more about choice.
It's about choices.
And-
And you have the choice. The client is empowered
Right.
to make that change. It is on the client's, it is the responsibility of the client. They are taking full responsibility. I don't tell them what to do. I just tell them, okay, this is what it is. Now it's up to you.
That's
How do you want to
wonderful.
take, where do you want to see yourself tomorrow? In about a year, what are your goals?
Right.
Where do you want to see?
You're almost
How do you
a-
like to live?
It's like it's a holistic medical approach to
Yes.
being a life coach.
Absolutely, and it is, and I also teach them the breathing techniques called pranayama, the mindfulness-based meditation that they can adopt. There is a specific Ayurvedic daily routine that I tell them from the time they wake up to the time that they go to bed, what your protocols should be.
That's wonderful. You know what, I'd like to follow up with you. Maybe we'll do that as a second series here, is a little bit of
Sure.
that self-awareness to get through your day,
Absolutely.
improve your health.
Absolutely, I'd love that.
Thank you.
You're
All right, so
welcome.
you can find out how to contact Sujatha if you live here in the Denver area, or if you'd like to consult with her from a distance. Her information is down below. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for that wonderful education on Ayurvedic medicine.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate you
Welcome.
being here.
Thank you.